Xiefeng. October 8, 2005. Translation edited by Chinyo. 1. There is no absolutely closed space. 2. Time does not exist. 3. Everyone is a cell of the greatest creator. 4. Going straight forward, one will return to the origin. 5. You can put on your shoes first and then your socks. 6. Rotating 360 degrees, one cannot return to the origin. 7. Stones can also cross rivers. 8. Life is not life, but death. Death is not death, but life. 9. Parallel lines can intersect. 10. What the eyes see is not real. 11. Human beings cannot manage themselves well. 12. Man has no original sin, only primitivity. 13. Consciousness determines everything. 14. Paradise exists in every possible way. 15. Truth and falsehood, good and evil, beauty and ugliness, love and hatred coexist with each other. There is no absolute truth, goodness, beauty, and love, nor absolute falsehood, evil, ugliness, and hatred. 16. What the brain can imagine is real. 17. The more you possess, the more you lose. 18. People can live completely in consciousness. Entering life genuine without new content may disappoint visitors. Today, I don't feel like writing an article, so let's just piece something together and consider it plain water to drink. All the devils are coming out of caves. Xiefeng. Edited by Kair. There is no doubt that the genetic engineering now underway is of epic significance and its future is immeasurable, but when we are complacent and blindly optimistic about it, believing that each moo of a field can produce 10,000 gene of grains and each fruit tree can produce 10,000 gene of fruits, that tomatoes can be bigger than watermelons and peaches can be sweeter than honey, that pigs can weigh 100 kilograms after only half a month's growth and skin and organs can be reproduced, that a new kind of medicine will satisfy people's need for food for 3 months and needed species can be cloned, and that diseases can be eradicated and cancer can be conquered to make people enjoy unlimited longevity, who would imagine that all the devils are coming out of the caves and that we might be facing doom at any time? Genetic codes are the golden locks that maintain the relative ecological balance and stability of nature, and that prevent the devils from coming out of the caves. But once they are unlocked, the following scenes are not just to scare you because they could happen at any time. You wake up to find that some people around you have grown tails and that their features and voices have changed because they have eaten animal meat from mutant genes. You call a friend who is thousands of kilometers away, but only hear chirp chirp noises coming out of your phone. You do not know that your friend has grown feathers and a beak from his mouth because he has eaten poultry or bird meat with mutant genes. You and your guests are happily drinking tea and chatting in the living room when suddenly hundreds of cockroaches, bigger than eagles, crawl in from the kitchen because they have drunk water contaminated by specific genes. You are driving your family in your car when suddenly the road ahead disappears as tens and thousands of hills rise before you. It turns out that potatoes have absorbed the soil nutrients contaminated by specific genes and are growing wildly like hills. You are sleeping soundly one night when you are suddenly awakened by the sounds of walls collapsing and sharp screams. So you open the windows and see hundreds of large rats, bigger than dogs, running through the yard and staring at you covetously. You come home from work and turn on a national television channel to watch the news, but no matter which channel you tune to, you find nothing, not even test patterns. In fact, the country has been infected with a gene that has rapidly mutated and spread, and everyone has gone mad and died within hours. You see plants growing wildly one day and learn that their reproduction and growth rates have grown faster than ants running. They spread over highways and bridges, climb mountains, float across rivers, occupy towns and cities, climb up tall trees and skyscrapers, and enter into caves and buildings, sweeping through to the ends of the earth. In places where they reach, from hill to hill no bird in flight, from path to path no man in sight. The devils are out of the caves and strange things will happen. The mortal world is no longer the one that we have known. People do not look like human, wolves are not wolf-like, and some plants grow wildly as some animals die instantly. At this point, any regrets are much too late. Perhaps people believe that through the efforts of scientists from different places, we will be able to handle the issues of genetic engineering rationally and cautiously and will not act recklessly. We can only hope. The point is that no one can be so sure that they have mastered all the secrets of gene interactions and can guarantee that there will not be gene hackers. Computer hackers can only crack passwords and disrupt programs, but gene hackers could push all of us into an abyss. In order to protect nature's ecological balance and in order to maintain our survival and development, we hope that governments and scientists who are involved with bioengineering will be extremely cautious. It would be better to suspend its development for a century than to act recklessly or to compete with each other for the most radical and extreme advancements. We must avoid catastrophes that are waiting to happen. An amorous heart is the truest heart. Xiefeng. March 11, 2019. Translated by Chinyu and edited by Care. People are amorous, so amorosity is the true color of the human heart. Forms give birth to souls and souls give birth to all phenomena. For either a beautiful woman facing 10,000 handsome men or a handsome man facing 10,000 beautiful women, 10,000 infatuations will blossom. The world praises the love of loyalty and concentration, but in fact, this is not in line with reality. It goes against people's hearts. The human world has created monogamy where one man and one woman are expected to love each other throughout their lifetimes. But this does not match the human heart. From the perspective of human nature, a man will never love only one woman throughout his life, and a woman will never want to eat from only one apple tree throughout her whole life. The reason why today's world is filled with worry, pain, anxiety, and sorrow is that people have not returned to their Tathagata nature. Amorosity is the Tathagata nature. The true color is the Tathagata nature. People hide behind masks, so how can they not worry and hurt each other? Not only do people wear their own masks, but they also maintain and praise them and threaten and induce others to wear them, kidnap the Tathagata nature with morals and ethics, and create religious doctrines to restrict people from showing their true colors. This is all really terrible. Where there are chronic sicknesses, there are no dutiful children at bedsides. This is reality, but why have people praised and maintained filial piety for thousands of years? Why have they not faced reality? Most children and grandchildren are unreliable. Very few are reliable. All men long for immortality, yet having sons will not achieve this. Although fond parents are legion, who ever saw a really filial son? If children and grandchildren are unreliable, then how can husbands and wives be reliable? All men long to be immortal yet dote on the wives they wed who swear to love them forevermore, but remarry as soon as they are gone. If they leave after you die, this can be considered their loyalty, and you must have burned some incense in your previous life. Most wives leave before their husbands die. Even if you have not gone, they long in their hearts for your death. If they do not long for your death, then they must still need something from you. Marriages and families have always been a devil's program, a curse, and this curse has kidnapped people for thousands of years. Here is a simple way to identify whether a program is angelic or satanic. It is the input and feedback method. If we reap melons from melon seeds or beans from bean seeds, then we are given the feedback on what we have entered into the program, and this program is angelic. On the contrary, if we reap beans from melon seeds or melons from bean seeds, then this program is satanic. What we enter and the feedback we receive are not the same, or even opposites. In the satanic program, if you input love, you will get hate. If you input true feelings, you will get false love. If you input hope, you will get disappointment or even despair. Too much falseness fills the world. If falseness is taken as truth, then truth is said to be lies. When nothing is taken as being, then being itself is turned into nothing. Since our grandparents' grandparents, we have reversed the truth from the false. So the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren regard false as true and true as false. The real is pressed under the five elements mountain, and the fake is rampant in all directions. So people have to suffer hardships, disasters, and pain, and they are hard-pressed to be enlightened to go to heaven. The human heart was originally amorous. The so-called, "I will love only you for my entire life," is a lie and a scam which exists for short times under certain circumstances, but when those circumstances change slightly, the fox's tail will be exposed. The man who says that when he is poor and helpless is telling the truth, but if says the same thing after his social and economic status improve dramatically, then he is lying and deceiving. The same is true for women. It is impossible to love only you for my entire life, because human hearts are amorous. If a bright and eye-catching flower blooms only for Zhang San, but it wilts immediately when seeing Li Si, Wang Wu, and Zhao Lu, then I want to ask you if it is still a flower? No, it is not, but rather a monster's spirit. Are people still human if they smile when they see a certain other person, but immediately cross their eyebrows when they see other people? No, they are not humans but evildoers. What men are indifferent to beautiful women? What women are unimpressed by handsome men? If there are such people, then they are not really people, but wood or stone, sculptural robots. Since this world has always been perplexed and deceived by falsities, we cannot know what the truth is. We have already mixed the false with the genuine, so we cannot know that amorous hearts are the truest ones. That is to say that anyone who truly loves you must also love the world, because anyone who does not love the world will never love any individual. To narrow the scope, women who love many men and men who love many women will give birth to true love, because their hearts are true and the love of which they speak is true. There are absolutely no marriages or families in heaven. How do we arrange our lives without them? I can tell you that I have found a way to live a better life than married and in a family. Not only have I found it, but I have also opened it up. We are all expected to live paradisical lives on earth, and not only that, but also have a chance to go to the real paradise. I have designed a game of being a groom every day and a bride every night for everyone. The game will be launched soon. If you participate in it, then you will definitely find that amorous hearts are the truest hearts.
两点之间直线最长曲线最短
Between 2 points, the straight line is the longest and the curved one is the shortest. Xiefeng, April 25, 2007. Translation edited by Chinyo. Between 2 points, the shortest distance is a straight line. This is common sense in mathematics, and I have no objection. I'm just thinking about it from another angle. I tried to connect the 2 points of Beijing and New York with a straight line, because the straight line between the 2 points is the shortest, but after tossing about for a long time, I found that the straight line between the 2 points is the longest. The principle is that the Earth is round, and there is no straight line connection between any 2 points. Once you want to connect with a straight line, the connection must go straight out along the tangent, and it is difficult to connect with another point. Only a curved connection represents the shortest distance. I took a Coca-Cola bottle and marked 2 points on its surface and tried to connect the 2 points with a straight line but failed. The result still proved that the straight line between the 2 points was the longest, and the curve was the shortest. As a result of various thinking and experiments, it is found that the conclusion that the straight line between 2 points is the shortest only holds true in two-dimensional space, and beyond the two-dimensional plane, this conclusion becomes invalid. In addition, this conclusion is valid in theory, but not in practice. That is to say, 2 points that are not in the same dimension cannot be connected by a straight line. The more you want to use a straight line to connect, the farther the distance will be. At the same time, What is correct in theory cannot be applied in practice. What will be the result of extending this discovery to other fields? In the field of thought, 2 points cannot be connected by a straight line. For example, the thoughts of Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, Muhammad, Marx, Lenin, Mao Zedong, Osho, Seth, etc., represent points that cannot be linearly linked. The shortest distance is a curved line. In the social field, such as the systems of the United States and China, there is no straight line between these 2 points. The shortest is only the curved one. In the field of belief, such as atheism and theism, evolution and creation, idealism and materialism, cannot be connected in a straight line. In human culture, for example, the values of Eastern and Western cultures cannot be linearly connected. In terms of love, the more direct the connection, the shorter the lifespan. A winding path leads to a hidden spot. A meditation chamber lies deep within the flowering trees. The more curved, the more nerve-wracking, the tastier. In terms of happiness, the more you want to get happiness in a straight line, the less you can get happiness. Many people have walked for a lifetime and finally find that the more direct road is the farthest way from happiness, and it does not lead to any destination. In fact, the Chinese know the truth of the curve best. Bribery is not done directly to oneself, but through his wife, his sisters, or his wife's sisters. It is not necessarily the bribe being his money, but to provide convenience for profit. They do not go directly to the office to ask for help, but invite people to go to the hotel first to talk about it. Although they are anxious, they pretend to be okay. Strategies such as playing hard to get, relieving the state of Zhao by besieging the state of Wei, crossing the sea under camouflage, making a feint to the east and attacking in the west, advancing secretly by an unknown path, resurrecting a dead soul by borrowing a corpse, abusing the locust tree while pointing to the mulberry, stealing the beams and pillars and replacing them with rotten timbers, using seductive women to corrupt the enemy, sowing discord among the enemy, etc., all exemplify taking indirect paths to achieve one's goals. The more curved the road of life, the better, and the more direct, the worse. What's so good about being born without experiencing anything and going straight to the grave? Falling in love today, getting married tomorrow, having a baby the day after tomorrow, and dying the day after tomorrow's tomorrow, what good is there? Eat, go to work, sleep, eat again, go to work again, sleep again. What good is there? What's so good about staying the same? A great man once said, "While the prospects are bright, the road has twists and turns." Reversing of this sentence is a truth. The road has twists and turns, but the prospects are bright. At least it makes more sense. The same is true in the field of life. If a master were to reveal the mysteries of life directly, and we were to journey to the Elysium Islands continent tomorrow, firstly, we would be unable to reach them, and secondly, we would miss out on the rich and diverse experiences of life. If you are having fun, laughing, playing, laughing and joking, feeling, undergoing, and experiencing, it looks like a curve, not direct, but the actual situation is. The straight line between 2 points is the longest, and the curve is the shortest. I like unconventional thinking and regard the normal as abnormal, and the abnormal as normal. As a result, thinking can extend to infinitely strange and broad fields, and often have the feeling of, just as the weary traveler despairs of finding a road, lo, a village appears, and the shade of willows and riotous flowers beckon. Often think from a different perspective. Often look at things upside down. This enlivens your spirit. Hee hee. Open all, close all.
意识决定存在。
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Xiefeng. Translated by Qinyu, edited by Peter. Whether existence determines consciousness, or consciousness determines existence, is a type of watershed between materialism and idealism. Human beings have not yet had a correct understanding of this issue until now. Jumping to a conclusion rashly will definitely cause confusion in people's minds. If we divide the population into 5 categories: ignorant people, laities, mortals, sages, and saints, immortals, And then according to the attitudes of people of each level towards the material world, we can clearly understand the reason why some people believe that existence determines consciousness, while others are convinced that consciousness determines existence. 1. Ignorant people live by instinct. Although they belong to the family of human beings, they are not much different from animals. They don't know what creation and thinking are. As long as things are necessary for their survival, they will just grab them. If they are put on a deserted island, they will only die. So, for ignorant people, existence determines everything. Without existence, there is nothing. 2. Laities are people who live by their desires. The central content of their lives is money, status, power, reputation, and beauty. They live for these desires all their lives. Once they don't get the above, they will suffer terribly. For laities, existence determines their consciousness, and their daily activities have a clear purpose and goal, which is how to obtain existence. Without the seduction of factors such as money, laities cannot live a single day. 3. Mortals live by affection. The core content of their lives is family affection, relatives and friends, colleagues and classmates, group and clan, country and nation. With these, they can live a flavorful life. Without these, they will feel alone, bored, empty, and lonely. Therefore, for mortals, it is still existence that determines consciousness, and without existence, their consciousness will collapse. 4. Sages are people who live by reason. They are people who often ask why, people who want to understand the essence behind superficial phenomena, existence. Existence is the basis of sages' consciousness. Without this basis, they cannot think deeply. People such as scientists in various fields, philosophers, and thinkers all belong to the category of sages. Although existence is the basis of the consciousness of sages, they also pay more attention to the reaction of consciousness to existence. Therefore, for sages, existence and consciousness are equally important. Because they devote more time and energy to the field of consciousness than on the basis of existence, sages tend to become the best among human beings. 5. Saints, immortals, are people who rely on spirituality. What is perceived through sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch is not important to them. What is important is what is realized through their spiritual sense. Spiritual perception is purely an activity of consciousness, so, for immortals, it is consciousness that determines existence. To sum it up, for ignorant people, laities, and mortals, existence determines consciousness. If you tell them, consciousness determines existence, it is like casting pearls before swine. They might even give you a back kick. For sages, existence is equivalent to consciousness. There is no question of who decides what. For immortals, consciousness determines existence. If we tell immortals that existence determines consciousness, they can only think that we are ignorant. Then, does existence determine consciousness, or does consciousness determine existence? First, let's take a look at all the things created by human beings. Like cars, how did cars appear on Earth? There are no cars on the Earth, so how could cars appear out of thin air? What? It turns out that people first imagined it in their consciousness, and then created it according to the imagination in their consciousness. How did the first house appear on the Earth? What? It is also people who first imagined a house structure, and then recreated it according to the imagined structure. How did fashion become popular? What? It turns out that fashion designers first realized it in their brains, and then made it to guide the trend. It can be deduced from this that all things created by human beings are firstly imagined in human consciousness, and then created according to their imaginations. If people had no imagination, that is, no thinking and no consciousness, then all the artificial objects that we use today would not have appeared. This clearly proves that consciousness determines existence. Without human consciousness, how can there be so many artificial things on the Earth? Let's look at the dwelling places of human beings and the natural environment. When we enter someone's home, someone who loves to be clean and tidy, we see that the tables, chairs, and beds are arranged in an orderly manner. Whether it is the pictures on the wall or the flowers cultivated on the windowsill, they all give people the feeling of being natural, harmonious, beautiful, and suitable. Why is this happening? Oh, it turns out that the owner of this house has a clear spatial layout in her consciousness. The orderly existence of everything in her house was first imagined in her consciousness. If her consciousness is chaotic, she may put the coffee table on the table, and she can't think of planting a few pots of flowers and placing them on the windowsill. Over the past 10 years, I have observed the residences of many people in Zimbabwe. Generally, the living environment of Caucasians is clean, tidy, and orderly. Their lawns are always neatly mowed. Their flowers are always beautiful, and plants are always verdant and green. Even their washrooms, toilets, are full of flowers, and you will never spot oil stains in their kitchens. Looking at the environment of our Chinese people, weeds are overgrown in the courtyard. Dog excrement is everywhere. The washroom smells bad. Cockroaches are rampant in the kitchen, and the stove is greasy. Why is there such a big difference? Aren't they all human? It turns out that the difference lies not in existence, but in consciousness. Chinese and Caucasians have different consciousness of the environment. The quality of the living environment depends on the consciousness of the people in this environment. If there is a good consciousness, there will be a good environment. Without a good consciousness, of course it is impossible to have a good environment for existence. My child once used his vacation to drive to Washington and New York by himself. I asked him on the phone, "What is your biggest impression after seeing New York?" Unexpectedly, he replied, "New York's Chinatown is too dirty and messy. It does not match the civilization and prosperity of New York." Can it be that existence determines consciousness? If a Chinese has lived in China from beginning to end, it can be barely said that the existence of the dirty, disorderly, and bad surrounding environment leads to the dirty, disorderly, and bad living environment of his own. But after we came to a beautiful country, where the existence is beautiful, why does the environment change when we live there? Isn't it that our consciousness determines our existence? Suppose we Chinese exchange with Japanese and Germans. We all live in Japan and Germany and let Japanese and Germans live in China. Within 50 years, China will become the most beautiful and graceful country in the world, while Japan and Germany will become too dirty, disorderly, and bad countries. Consciousness determines existence, and what kind of consciousness is there, there will be that kind of existence. If everyone is belligerent, the world will be in a constant state war. If everyone loves peace, how could there be wars?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Look at Islamic mosques, Christian churches, and Buddhist temples. Their architectural styles and shapes are quite different. Why? Because the consciousness of designers and builders is different from each other.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
When comparing the urban layouts of Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe, and Beijing, the capital of China, Harare's commercial, industrial, and residential areas are clearly separated, with a distance of at least 1 kilometer from each other, while Beijing's commercial, residential, and industrial areas are almost intertwined. The reason for the formation of this pattern of existence is that the British and the Chinese have different consciousness of people, and it is the different consciousness that determines the different urban layouts.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
When comparing the wearing and the style of dress of women during the Chinese Cultural Revolution and the wearing and style of dress of people at this present stage, from the perspective of time and space, they are definitely two different worlds. During the Cultural Revolution, women did not bother to perm, dye their hair, draw their eyebrows, and put on lipstick. Even their clothes were mostly yellow, gray, and blue. Skirts and high-heeled shoes were absolutely not allowed. About their breasts, they would find ways to press them tightly to their chest. If you budged a little, people would look at you differently, and you would be regarded as a hot, foxy spirit descending on the world, a symbol of restlessness and flirting. Look at today's women, one by one. They are more enchanting and beautiful, with all kinds of postures, styles, curvaceous beauty, sexual beauty, and temperamental beauty that is fully displayed, living out their individuality, freedom, and elegance, as if all the fairies in heaven have descended to the world. The reason why different eras have different ways of dressing is that people in different eras have different consciousness, and it is the consciousness of different eras that determines the existence of those different eras.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why is the population of the United States growing more slowly than that of China and India? Why do couples with higher IQs, who are richer, and with higher education levels have fewer children, while poorer, less educated couples have more children? Why can a man have several wives in some countries and regions, while most countries and regions can only be monogamous? Why could a couple in our previous generation have many children, but we can only have one child at this stage of China? Aren't all these differences determined by our human consciousness?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why are most of the Nobel Prize winners Americans? Why is there not a single Nobel Prize winner from mainland China? Are Americans so smart and Chinese so stupid? The main reason is that Americans and Chinese have different consciousness. If you want to eat hamburgers, you will definitely not make noodles. If you want to eat chicken, you definitely won't put pork into the pot. The reason is so simple. Do we still doubt that consciousness determines existence?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why do the political systems of various countries in the world differ from each other? Why does the President of the United States only serve 2 terms at most, while the presidents of some countries can serve many terms? Isn't it their existence determined by the national consciousness of various countries? How was the Earth born? How did the plants and animals on Earth appear? Isn't this determined by the consciousness of the greatest creator? Not long ago, I read a review article. Its general meaning is to criticize the only children in China at this stage for being ambitious, unrealistic, greedy for enjoyment, and for their wishful thinking. The article also mentioned a college student who had not yet graduated describing his long-term plan. I want to go to the United States and build a villa in a small city with beautiful mountains and rivers. I want to have a green lawn, a private swimming pool, and a Mercedes-Benz. The reviewer had a good-natured ridicule on this wishful thinking and hoped that such college students can face reality, be down to earth, and not be too ambitious. In my opinion, this commenter is an outstanding representative of the idea that existence determines consciousness. His thinking is still in the narrow field of material existence. He only sees today, values reality, and he cannot imagine that the future of mankind is determined by the consciousness of mankind, that the future of each individual is determined by the consciousness of the individual. This kind of person is a frog at the bottom of a well, and the blue sky he sees is just as big as a sieve. Relying on this kind of person to guide young people is not only misleading young people, but also cruelly oppressing people's spirituality and ruining their bright future. Such people, on the surface, are kind, but in essence, are evil. If I were to comment on this college student, I would say, "Son, you're absolutely right. Visualize it. Your wish will come true." The better and clearer the picture you have of your future in your mind, the more likely you are to realize it. The place you can see is where you are going. The situation you can realize in your brain is where you can go, because your behavior is controlled by your consciousness. If you want to go to the east, your feet can't move toward the west. The existence of reality is constantly changing with the consciousness of human beings. If we limit our consciousness to the existence of reality, we will always be slaves to the existence of reality, and we will never be able to create a better tomorrow. Son, the universe is boundless. There are 36-dimensional spaces. So spread the wings of your imagination and fly freely. A bright future belongs to the generation that can imagine this. Whether existence determines consciousness or consciousness determines existence, it is by no means a game of words or concepts, and it is by no means a question of whether to eat steamed buns or noodles. Whoever comes first directly determines the future of everyone. What kind of consciousness one has, he will have that kind of life. What kind of consciousness determines what kind of existence he will have. Existence determines consciousness is the thinking of animals and plants that rely on instinct to survive. Consciousness determines existence is the thinking of sages and saints, and the thinking of gods and Buddhas. If existence determines consciousness, we have only one Earth. If consciousness determines existence, we will have 36 dimensional spaces. If existence determines consciousness, we can only survive in the contradictions and pains of reality forever. If consciousness determines existence, we can transcend the existence of reality and focus on future development and changes. If existence determines consciousness, we can only passively be constrained by the environment. If consciousness determines existence, we can actively open up a sunshine avenue in the existence of reality. If existence determines consciousness, we cannot see the brilliance of the greatest creator, and we can only live to die. If consciousness determines existence, we can decipher the mysteries of the time and space of the universe, extend this limited life to the infinite wonderful time and space, and then we can die to be reborn. Existence determines consciousness is conventional thinking. Consciousness determines existence is unconventional thinking, and a bright future belongs to people with unconventional thinking. Democracy is the pursuit of mediocrity. Xiefeng. June 23th, 2011. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. 3 cobblers could never exceed Zhuge Liang. Neither 3,000 nor even 30,000 cobblers could outwit him. When critical decisions are to be made, an individual of lofty vision and great strategies can outperform the collective decisions of tens of thousands of the mediocre. Democracy leads to mediocrity and to dead ends. We can illustrate this point by the several ups and downs of Chairman Mao Zedong during early 20th century Chinese history. June 1929. In the 7th CPC National Congress of the 4th Red Army held in western Fujian, Mao Zedong was forced to leave his position of the Frontline Committee Secretary of the 4th Red Army. November 1931. In the Southern Jiangxi meeting held in Yeping, Ruijin, Chairman Mao was mistakenly criticized by the party and was elbowed out of the Central Committee during the Soviet era. October 1932. At the Ningdu meeting, the chairman was excluded aside again and even lost his post of political commissar of the First Red Army. January 1934. During the Second Congress of the Soviet area, he was made a mere figurehead and removed from his position as chairman of the Central People's Committee. The result of these demotions was the gradual shrinking of red bases and the revolution ushered low tide, resulting in the failure of the Fifth counter-campaign against encirclement and suppression. The Red Army was forced to make a strategic shift to start the solemn and stirring move in the war history of mankind, the 25,000 Li Long March. The central base, personally created by Mao Zedong, was destroyed overnight. The whole universe is run in a unilateral manner under the one, unique, greatest creator. It is only when all life in the universe follows the will of the greatest creator that the universe can run orderly and all life can survive and live effectively. In any other way, the universe would collapse. If a cat or dog were not convinced and cried out, "Oh, greatest creator, you have been too autocratic and domineering. The throne of the greatest creator should be shared in turns, and the greatest creator should be chosen by democratic elections from the whole universe," then all would disappear. As it is with life genuine. If the guide were to be decided through a democratic election and if I were not elected as such, then life genuine would inevitably dissolve. And if that were to happen, the hopes and dreams of all the Chanyuan celestials would become impossible to achieve. Napoleon famously said, "Nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide." It is only when the chief commander makes the decisions that they can be effective and orderly. The sage embraces the One and becomes the model of the world. The greatest creator is the One in the universe. The state leader is the One in the government. The boss is the One in a company. The conductor is the One in an orchestra. This is the model of the world, and sages must comply with it. Whoever creates a business should be the boss, with all big and small decisions being made by or delegated by that boss. Question: what types of people want democracy? Answer: 8 of those types are described here. irresponsible people, people with mediocre minds, people who scramble for power, people who do things stealthily, people who are selfish, people who shift responsibilities, people without definite views of their own, profiteers from others' labor without sacrificing. All matters, big and small, must be managed by responsible individuals. They should be the ones to make decisions within the scope of their responsibilities. There should be no arguments, debates, discussions, or consensuses. Whenever two or more people jointly control anything, the result becomes a resource-consuming process with low efficiency and mutual finger-pointing, with no one ultimately being held responsible. No matter how democratic a flock of sheep is, it can never resist a wolf. No matter how democratic a group of people with mediocre wisdom is, it can never match the vision and insight of a saint. The Life-Genuine era does not practice democracy, but each one has their duty and accountability. Like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each one shows his or her special prowess. Each undertaking is in the hands of one responsible person. Others should cooperate fully and follow the exact requirements of the one in charge strictly and meticulously. If a leader cannot control their rule, but decides every affair through compromises and consolidations, then they are not being responsible and are incapable of assuming their responsibility. They are consuming and wasting everyone's time and energy, as well as their natural and human resources. Democracy always leads to mediocrity, and the wise should guard against that. But what should we do when a leader is self-willed, domineers their power, and exercises tyranny? I do not know. What do you think? Did life evolve from non-life? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Let's examine the validity of the evolutionist perspective, with Darwin as their pioneer, on the origin of species. Upon rejecting the Big Bang Theory and the notion of life arising accidentally from water, and upon analyzing the theory of evolution, we realize its shaky foundation. Without the birth of life, can evolution truly exist? Where do eggs come from without chickens? And without eggs, where does the chicken come from? Like how DNA formation depends on protein formation, without initial protein presence, DNA cannot form. Which came first, protein or DNA? The core tenets of the theory of evolution are as follows. Before evolution, there must be at least one or several lives. These one or several lives have evolved into a diverse array of life forms on Earth today. Organism evolution results from heredity, variation, and natural selection. Evolution follows the logic of natural selection, survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle, selecting the superior and eliminating the inferior. When a species cannot adapt to its environment, or when the environment does not support a species' survival, it evolves into another species. Due to brutal competition and survival of the fittest, the weak are naturally eliminated, leaving behind only the strong. This implies that low-energy forms fade while high-energy forms emerge. From these aspects, we can deduce the following. Earthworms, flies, turtles, dung beetles, cobras, dogs, humans, etc., originate from the same ancestor. Due to deteriorating ecological conditions, to ensure species reproduction, some dinosaurs evolved into humans, while others became lions and wolves. Since weaker organisms are naturally eliminated, all insects are weaker than birds and will evolve into birds or more powerful animals. Similarly, herbivores, weaker than carnivores, will evolve into carnivores for species reproduction. Carnivores, weaker than humans, will undoubtedly evolve into humans for survival. The final outcome of survival of the fittest is that all insects and animals will eventually evolve into humans. Regarding humans, the strong prey on the weak and the fittest survive. People survive by plundering and killing each other. Strong nations only remain invincible by eliminating the weak. All plundering and killing wars in history align with the theory of evolution. Acts of kindness toward other species appear cruel within one's own race. Conversely, cruelty toward other species is seen as kindness within one's own race. Whether it's burning, killing, looting, or cheating, any means to eliminate the weak and strengthen oneself are justified. Hence, Hitler's actions were 100% correct. Humans will continue to evolve. Eventually, wings will grow on their backs, eyes on the back of their heads, and they will breathe out fireworks and emit laser light from their eyes. Further analysis is unnecessary. Based on the 10 outcomes mentioned above, we can assess the viability of the theory of evolution. As we observe humans becoming smarter and more capable with each generation, we assume human evolution. However, this increased capability depends entirely on accumulated knowledge, and the essence of human life has remained unchanged since ancient times. Our genes, as human beings, have not changed. Our ancestors had 2 eyes, and we still do. Our blood was red then, and it remains red now. Our body structure has not gained or lost any organs or parts compared to our ancestors. If modern children could run like deer or zebras at birth, it would confirm human evolution. If monkeys and apes' brains are similar to humans in learning, memory, and thinking, we can deduce that humans evolved from monkeys. I will delve further into the topic of biological evolution in future chapters, particularly in the Greatest Creator chapter of Life a Genuine. I encourage you to continue contemplating this issue.
地狱存在的8个逻辑推理。
8 logical deductions that prove the existence of hell. Xiefeng. April 27, 2022. Translated by Qinyu. Edited by Peter. Does hell exist? This question is the same as whether the soul exists or not. Hell exists, just as the soul exists. 1. The law that the sum of positive and negative energies in the universe is 0. The action force and the reaction force are equal in size and opposite in direction. If we regard the action force as positive energy and compare the reaction force to negative energy, then the positive energy and negative energy are equal in size, and their sum is 0, that is, 1 plus minus 1 equals 0. This means that where there is heaven, there also must be hell. Heaven is positive energy and hell is negative energy. Heaven can also be regarded as negative energy and hell as positive energy. If there is no hell, it violates the law that the sum of positive and negative energies in the universe is 0. 2. Schematic representation of the three-dimensional coordinate system. Mathematics is the language of the universe. In the three-dimensional coordinate system, there is a quadrant XYZ, which is where heaven is, and another quadrant is XYZ, which is where hell is. 2. The principle of Taiji. The principle of Taiji tells us that everything has an opposite side, a virtual interface, with the interface as the center. If one side is up, the other side must be down. If one side is left, the other side must be right. If one side is light, the other side must be darkness. If one side is heaven, the other side must be hell. 4. The principle of balance of yin and yang. Yin and yang are the way of heaven and earth, the order of all things, the parents of change, the origin of life and death, and the palace of gods. Aren't they not connected? Yin and yang must be balanced. There is a material world, and there is a non-material world. Since heaven is yang, there must be a yin as its symmetrical balance, and this yin is hell. 5. The law of debt balance. There is a simple legal principle, that is, a murderer must repay with his life just like a borrower with money. If this simple legal principle does not hold, then there can be no justice. How should a person be punished for committing many acts of evil? How should a person be punished if he owes countless debts and fails to pay them back? If there is no punishment, where is the justice? If there is no justice, why are some people born into rich families and others into poor families? If there is no hell, how are evildoers and defaulters punished? 6. Enlightenment from phenomena in reality. What kind of situation did the girl in chains live in Feng County, Suzhou? Don't you admit that she is living in hell? Under the same sunshine, why are people's living conditions so different? What kind of feeling did Wu Zishu experience when he passed Jiaoguan and all his hair turned white overnight? Isn't that what it's like to be in hell? This phenomenon in reality proves the existence of hell. 7. The manifestation of the impartiality of Tao. Both the Bible and the Tao Te Ching talk about the Tao, and the Buddhist scriptures talk about the Dharma. So what are the Tao and the Dharma? I specifically analyzed the 8 characteristics of the Tao, one of which is the impartiality of the Tao. The impartiality of the Tao tells us that those who are perfect will live in heaven, and those who are flawed will live in hell. Those who walk the way of the greatest creator will live in heaven, and those who walk the way of the devil will live in hell. This is the reward and punishment mechanism of the Tao. Without heaven, a perfect person cannot be rewarded accordingly. Without hell, a flawed person cannot be punished accordingly. Without reward and punishment, there can be no fairness. 8. The law of ecological balance. When observing nature, we see that there are all kinds of strange animals, various plants, ever-changing microorganisms, sunlight, soil, water, mountains, and rivers. Without the existence of any one of these species, nature cannot maintain a vibrant cycle. In the cyclical system of human life, there are the greatest creator, gods, angels, celestial beings, Buddhas, demons, goblins, monsters, evil spirits, saints, sages, mortals, laities, ignorant people, domestic animals, and ghosts, etc. I'd like to ask, where do ghosts live? In hell, of course. Through the above 8 logical reasonings, it can be concluded that hell exists. How to put on shoes before socks. Xiefeng. February 12, 2022. Translation edited by Chinyo. Yesterday, a netizen asked me how to put on shoes before socks. Since I didn't have time to respond yesterday, I am writing this article to answer today. Putting on shoes before socks is the 5th item in my article, 18 Items of Unconventional Thinking, in the chapter on Unconventional Thinking. Attempting this reverse order of dressing using conventional logic might seem absurd, as it is exceedingly challenging from a traditional perspective and could be considered impossible. To tackle this unconventional concept, one must employ unconventional thinking. Once unconventional approaches are embraced, solutions become apparent. Renaming shoes and socks offers a simple workaround. Call shoes socks and socks shoes. This semantic switch allows for the unconventional act of putting on shoes before socks. In the 1,000-year world, where I resided, footwear was singular in form, referred to interchangeably as either shoes or socks. If one desired to wear 2 pairs, layering was the solution. This allowed us to distinguish the inner layer as shoes and the outer layer as socks. Isn't this a clever way to don shoes before socks? Our preconceived notions often lead us to believe that shoes are sturdy and rigid, while socks are loose and soft. However, shoes can be made pliable and socks flexible. Consider the soft shoes provided by some hotels, easily accommodating a pair of supple socks. Must shoes be indivisible? Detachable shoe designs offer an alternative. Don the shoes first, then unzip the instep to open the shoe upper, allowing for sock insertion. Close the upper and zip up the zipper. Voila! Shoes before socks. Every phenomenon should be considered within a realm of possibility, 64 possibilities to be precise. Limiting ourselves to familiar knowledge and cognitive boundaries renders many problems unsolvable. For instance, must the China-US relationship solely vacillate between cooperation and confrontation? Surely, there exist 62 other potential approaches. Similarly, must human relationships be confined to just acquaintances and strangers, relatives and foes, or rich and poor? By embracing unconventional thinking, we unlock a myriad of solutions to seemingly insurmountable challenges. Must we adhere to the notion that human society's survival mode must either be capitalism or socialism? Is communism the only future for humanity? Many seemingly unsolvable or difficult problems can only be resolved or answered through unconventional thinking. Knowledge is not power. Xiefeng. October 11th, 2017. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Knowledge is a combination of the experience and cognition accumulated by our social and productive practical activities. One can possess a wealth of knowledge, which means that they possess the foundation to gain power, but no matter how much knowledge they have, it does not mean that they will ever have power. It is like a library which has abundant knowledge but no power. From the point of storing knowledge, a person's brain is only like a library. Knowledge is Power is from Meditation, written by the 17th century British philosopher Francis Bacon, which teachers delight in using to arouse students' learning interest at school. As a result, students blindly believe that as long as they learn their lessons well, which are set by schools, and as long as they grasp that knowledge, they will have the power to achieve their own pursuits and ideals after they graduate. Knowledge comes mainly from our sense organs. However, in the view of the Greek philosopher Protagoras, human is the measure of everything. This was refuted by Francis Bacon, who wrote that it is a great mistake to conclude that our limited sense organs measure all things. In other words, it is wrong to judge and measure all things and all forms from the limited knowledge that our sense organs can provide. Consider a scenario in which a sexy young girl with a middle school diploma is standing next to a more mature, older lady with a doctorate degree, and both are in front of an interviewer. Which one is more likely to arouse the man's rich imagination, alter his mood, and motivate his intense vitality? If it is the young girl, that is because knowledge is not true power, since even beauty can have more power. It is reckless and dangerous to believe that knowledge is power. Not only is it a cognitive misconception, but also a thinking one. For example, to accept that when a son is grown, he takes a wife, and when a girl is mature, she finds a husband, as a life knowledge is bound to bring anguish and suffering throughout their whole lives. This knowledge has led people to make such common mistakes for thousands of years, but which accomplish no good. Some more are. There are 3 forms of unfilial conduct, but the worst is to have no descendants. Filial piety is the most important of all virtues. Lewdness is the worst of all sins. He who does not endure hardship cannot stand up to others. Another example is how education and guidance are passed from parents to their children. Can a parent's knowledge conduct and educate their children with both a full range of healthy spirits, minds, and bodies, as well as the ability to lead their own independent lives? Most fall very short. When great changes take place in objective knowledge, but we stubbornly insist on applying our traditional knowledge, we will certainly be rebuffed. Look at various religious dogmas and concepts. As they feel a loss of power, they become reactionary, resist social development, and impede natural human liberation. In fact, prejudices and fallacy are knowledge. What are the benefits of such knowledge? None. Our most powerful intellectual force is the power of flexible and tactful thinking. I believe firmly that Albert Einstein's power came not from his knowledge, but from his thinking. How would I perceive the universe if I were riding on a beam of light? Those who read more and get more diplomas and more experience, but form rigid ways of thinking, have rarely been found to wield much power. Lasting power comes from neither knowledge nor from powerful economic strength and national defense forces, but from sincerity, kindness, virtue, love, faith, and honesty. Sincere deeds have power, kind behavior has power, things of virtue have power, love is a powerful force, honest quality has power, people who keep their words and their faith have power. Conclusion. Knowledge must be learned and accumulated, but knowledge has limitation, danger, and can be reactionary. Never believe blindly that having knowledge is synonymous with having power. Rather than spending your precious time on chasing knowledge, you would be well advised to concentrate your efforts on sincerity, kindness, virtue, love, faith, and honesty, for those are the people who will enjoy lasting power. Meanwhile, take pains to develop your way of thinking by never spending time and effort reciting your former knowledge, or stubbornly judging and adapting to a changing, living reality with dead, prejudicial knowledge.
思维要一种法力。生死是表象，生命无生死。
Life and death are only images. There is neither life nor death in life. Xiefeng. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. The Mobius strip tells us that life and death are not opposites. Life is death, and death is life. There is death in life, and life in death. The Yellow Emperor's Book of the Hidden Talisman said, "Life is the root of death, and death is the root of life." Babies cry when they are born. Why do they cry? Because life is bitter. How do you know that life is bitter? This is like a chick in an egg that has been hatched for 21 days, pecking at the shell. Although it does not know how thick the eggshell is, whether it can be pecked through, or whether there is a vast world outside the eggshell, it must peck. That is its instinct. What is instinct? Instinct is a kind of innate performance that biosystems can make without learning, such as chickens and eggshells pecking at them, bees making honey, migratory birds migrating with the seasons, mice digging holes, roosters crowing, etc. Babies cry as soon as they are born, and they know how to suck a breast. This is also an instinct. Everything has an instinct. If they do not have an instinct, everything will perish. So where did the instinct come from? This involves the origin of life. Please see the chapter of life. All things on earth are created by higher life, and instincts are embedded in the structure and order of life. The purpose of this chapter is to talk about life and death. Why do we say, life is death and death is life? To understand the true meaning of life and death, we must proceed from the following 3 points. First, do people have past lives? First of all, let me reprint the full text of an article compiled by Wang Jiankong and Li Liming and published in Reader magazine. Unbelievable, Reborn Girl. In 1926, a lovely little girl was born in Delhi, India. Her name was Shani Devi. When she was just born, there was nothing abnormal about her at all. But when she was 7 years old, little Shani suddenly said to her mother inexplicably, "Mom, I used to live in the city of Mathura." She also enthusiastically told her mother about Mathura and the situation at her home then. Later, Shanti mentioned this matter several more times. The parents were very worried when they saw their 7-year-old daughter talking about something irrelevant, so they took her to see a doctor. The doctor was puzzled after hearing Shanti's narration. "It's really strange. This child has no symptoms of mental abnormalities at all. How could she say these unbelievable things? Let's observe her for a while." However, at the age of 9, Shanti still did not forget about her living in Mathura. "Mom, did I mention that I lived in Mathura before? I got married there and gave birth to 3 children. My name was Luchi when I lived in Mathura." Shanti also told her mother the names and characteristics of the 3 children. The parents became more and more anxious after listening to their daughter's intoxicated chatter, thinking that the child's condition was probably getting worse. And they often wiped away their tears in secret. One day, a visitor came to see Shanti's mother. As soon as Shanti saw that person, she suddenly called out, "Mom, this person is my former husband's cousin. He also lives in Mathura." The guest was surprised when he heard Shanti's words and said, "Your daughter is right. I used to live in Mathura. But how did she know about it?" After the incident spread, it attracted the attention of the Indian government, and a special investigation committee was formed. The committee brought Shanti to Mathura for on-the-spot investigation. Shanti has never left Delhi since her birth. But as soon as she arrived in Mathura, she was able to warmly greet the local people who came to meet her in the Mathura dialect, as if she had met a long-lost friend. When she came to the door of a house, she stopped suddenly and said to others, "This is the house I used to live in." She walked in the door, pointed to an old man, and said, "He is just the father of my former husband." Then, she recognized her two children, and she also told people about her previous life in Mathura in detail, her association with her friends, the nearby landscape, and the school she was in at that time. The local people were very surprised when they heard her narration. What she said was completely correct, which was exactly the situation at that time. So little Shanti is the one who was reborn. The people who came to investigate this issue had to come to this conclusion. In India, the ancient Buddhist country, there are really many reborn people. Swarata Misho is one of them. One day, when he was traveling by bicycle, he pointed to a house he had never been to and said that he had lived here for a period and talked as if he just thought of it. He also talked about the past. This surprised the accompanying family members. They ran into the village to inquire, and what Swarata said was exactly what happened here decades ago. It is said that Swarata has been resurrected 3 times. There was also a young man in India named Gaspiel. He just died shortly. On the day a person named Yaki died in a village 35 kilometers away, Gaspier suddenly woke up in the coffin placed in his home. When people pulled him out of the coffin, to their surprise, Gaspiel knew the appearance of Yaki, who was far away in a foreign land, and all the things that happened in that village. There are many examples of past lives recorded in ancient and modern Chinese and foreign books. We can't completely believe what they say, but in the face of the facts, we can't deny everything. We can deny that the statement of Tang Monk in Journey to the West is the reincarnation of Jean Chanzi, but we cannot but believe in the theory of the reincarnated soul boy of the Tibetan Panchen Lama in Tibet. For example, Wendu Gongbao Kaidan, the reincarnated soul boy of the 9th Panchen Lama Sangdang Kyuji Nyama, was able to accurately select the utensils used by the previous Panchen Lama from other identical objects, and even more surprisingly, he was able to call out the name of Gajan Pong, who had sung for the Panchen Lama, from the crowd. Before that, the two had never met. Gongbao Kaidan was not discovered by accident. A pill jumped out of the gold bottle during the shaking. They opened it, and it was Wendu Gongbao Kaidan's name on it. A pill jumped out of the gold bottle during the shaking. They opened it, and it was Wendu Gongbao Kaidan's name on it. In fact, anyone who was a human being in the last life and reincarnated as a human in the next life will definitely have a feeling of déjà vu about a place suddenly and dimly in your life. In some places, although you have never been there, once you arrive, they must be reflected in your subconsciousness. You don't know what's going on, you just feel as if you have been here before. Of course, if you were an animal in your previous life, you will not have this kind of memory, but you must have a special love for a certain animal, and you are particularly disgusted or afraid of some animals. If you were a celestial in the 1,000-year world or the 10,000-year world, you will not have this kind of hazy memory, but you will definitely hate the selfishness of human society and subconsciously feel that you don't belong to this world. If you come from the Elysium world, you don't like meat by nature. Many wonderful hallucinations often appear in your mind, and you have an instinctive closeness to Buddhism. Second, do people really have an afterlife? It's hard for us to believe the hearsay of others, but we have to believe the theories and examples based on scientific research and clinical practice. There is an organization in this world called the International Association for Near-Death Studies, whose website is www.nderf.org. The results of this research organization show that people have an afterlife. Please feel free to contact them to discuss where people go after death. As living people, it is impossible for them to clearly know the scene after death. But for those who died but came back to life due to various reasons, it is true that some of them have experienced the scene after death. I myself started to explore the essence of life because of a fact that came into being 20 years ago. That is, no matter whether people in the world believe it or not, I am sure that life has an afterlife. And because of my continuous research and exploration, I discovered my past life and future life and made clear the purpose and significance of my birth. I passed through a happy darkness and saw the bright sunshine. I felt extremely happy. I was pushed into a black hole, and my mind still maintained infinite peace. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared in front of me. It was like a star in the sky at first, and then it turned into a sun at dawn in an instant. The radiant sun does not dazzle me. On the contrary, looking at this red sun, I feel unparalleled happiness. This is a beautiful place. I am very happy to come to this place. I feel delightful. I seemed to have a nightmare. Countless ghosts came to claim my life, and a black tornado also hit me. I was frightened to death, and suddenly I was pulled back by a force. I watched the doctors tossing my dead body. Relatives and friends were mourning and crying, but I drifted farther and farther away from them. I was not sad. I felt extremely peaceful and felt that there was a beautiful place in the distance, and that is where I should be. The above are the memories and narrations of people who died and came back to life. Although they did not describe what kind of place they arrived at, it is certain that they still have a clear consciousness after death, and they also feel the beauty or dreadfulness of the place they are going to. It is certain that people will have an afterlife. There are only two kinds of eternal things in the universe. One is energy and the other is life. Without life, the existence of the universe is meaningless. Without energy, life will have nothing to attach itself to. Life is eternal. The so-called death is just the transformation of the life carrier. After the body of life dies, the spiritual body of life will enter another life carrier. After a dog dies, it may be reincarnated as a human being. Then, as a dog, it died, but it was born again as a human being. That is to say, life is the root of death, and death is the root of life. Where there is no death, there is no birth. Where there is no birth, there is no death. If the life of a dog does not die, then the life of a human cannot be born. To be born in the 1,000-year world, the life in the mortal world must die, and life cannot step into two rivers at the same time. So, what is the meaning of "in life there is death, in death there is life"? We know that the aging of the body is gradual and unconscious. If we take photos of the life mileage from birth to death every day, by taking out two adjacent photos and comparing them, you cannot see the difference between the two at all. However, if you compare the photos with the ones which were taken after a period of time, such as 1 month or a year, you can clearly see the difference between them. That is to say, life is dying every moment. In life there is death. So, is there life in death? Yes, there is life in death. We already know that life is eternal, and people have an afterlife. So what factors will determine our afterlife? Is becoming a cow, a pig, a human, an immortal, or a Buddha in the next life accidental or inevitable? We know that every result has an early cause. It is impossible for anyone to suddenly become a president. A desert will not suddenly become an oasis, and a tadpole will not suddenly become a frog. The change is gradual, but the result may be sudden. For a person to reincarnate as a beast in the next life, he needs to continue to do evil, to squander and waste. He needs not only to spend all the savings in his life bank, but also overspend and leave a deficit. Otherwise, he will not be able to reincarnate as a beast in his next life. In the same way, if a person wants to become a Buddha, he must consciously and voluntarily reach the point of having nothing. Not only can he not own money, fame, property, beautiful women, family, status, etc., but he must also not be obsessed with a certain concept or have disputes with common people, and of course he must not kill or eat meat. If you want to go to the 1,000-year world in your next life, your humanity must be perfect. So, are there any signs that indicate what kind of reincarnation criteria a person has reached at the time of his death? Yes, that are the different structures of neurons in the central nervous system of the brain at the time of death. Different structures have different colors. If a color scanner can be invented when a person dies, open his neurocranium and you can see the color of his brain with the scanner. If it is colorful, it can be concluded that his life has gone to the 10,000-year world. If it is purple, he has gone to the Elysium world. If it appears red or green or blue, he must have gone to the 1,000-year world. If it appears white, he will be reincarnated as a human. If it shows a faint dark color, he will enter the animal world in the next life. If it is black, he will definitely go to the netherworld, or the frozen layer, or to the inflaming layer. In short, life and death are only images. Life has neither life nor death. Just like Seth said, death is not the end of life. Misconceptions in thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Failure is the mother of success. Is it really so? The original intention of this argument is to encourage people not to be discouraged by failure, but to learn from it in order to achieve success. It seems that the great inventor Edison once said, "Who says I failed? I already know 9,900 ways that won't work." From this, people mistakenly believe that Edison's success is entirely due to failure. Thus, failure is the mother of success. In fact, Edison's success is entirely based on his repeated successes. Without the multiple successes in the early stage and the confidence gained from other successes, he would undoubtedly fail. The truth is, from the perspective of probability theory, success breeds success and failure breeds failure. Successful people will continue to succeed, while failures will continue to fail. Individual or minority examples are not sufficient to establish a theorem. True lovers eventually become a couple. Is it true? This idea seems to tell us that all married couples in the world are loving and affectionate lovers. Let's ask ourselves honestly, have you and your loved one become a married couple? The fact is, it is difficult for lovers to become married. If lovers do become married, the outcome is often the drowning of affection. Live and work in peace and contentment. Is it possible? Without a job, how can one live in peace? Would pies fall from the sky? It should be only by enjoying work can one live in peace. In today's world, many young people start their careers first and then start a family, which is correct. Safe and sound. Half right. Being safe leads to being sound, but being sound leads to being safe. Steel is refined through 100 trials. Try it. After 100 attempts, will it become steel or gas? Ever-changing. Yes, without rules to follow. Acting without rules, indeed it is ever-changing. Wisdom comes from experience. Must we experience everything to gain wisdom? Time flies, life is short. If we cannot cleverly make use of things, if we cannot learn from others' experiences and lessons and apply them to different situations to gain wisdom, and instead insist on trying everything by ourselves, isn't that foolish? The only way to catch tiger cubs is to go into the tiger's den. How many spy satellites are hovering over us, observing our every move? With interconnected computers, the world situation can be observed in an instant. In this era, do we still need to risk our lives to catch tiger cubs in their dens? Truth lies in the coffin. Don't expect to find truth just by closing the coffin. People will review history from thousands of years ago for comments. We should still follow Tao and not care about the content of the eulogy when we die. Associate with the wise and you become wise. Associate with the foolish and you become foolish. Nuns think about having a drink in the lively place, and prostitutes want to get away early and cultivate virtue. There are many corrupt officials among the emperor's followers, and there is justice among the gangsters. Who says, associate with the wise and you become wise? Associate with the foolish and you become foolish? A newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. The opposite is, a newborn tiger is most afraid of cows. The viewer sees better than those involved. The truth is, those involved see better, while the viewer is confused. He who has the truth on his side has the majority. Aside from negative cosmic energy, The rest seems to be. The strong have more help, the weak have less help. A dog relies on its master's power. Similarly, people rely on the power of dogs. A bosom friend afar brings a distant land near. Without anyone recognizing oneself, one's neighbor is as distant as the ends of the earth. Once called, it comes. Once waved, it goes. It comes when called, but it's hard to make it go when waved. The strong wind reveals the sturdy grass. Sturdy grass recognizes the strong wind. Do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself. What you do not want done to yourself, you easily do unto others. Listen to both sides, and you will be enlightened. Heed only one side, and you will be benighted. Heeding only one side leads to darkness, and listening to both sides also leads to darkness. If you want something, you must give something in return. If you give something, it's definitely in order to get something back. Exhaust oneself in service, and only rest in death. Exhaust oneself in service, merely for the sake of reputation. A long road tests the strength of a horse. Time reveals a person's heart. Carrying a heavy load tests the strength of a horse, and money reveals a person's heart. Better to be a shattered jade than an intact tile. Better to be an intact tile than a shattered jade. If the skin is gone, what can the hair attach to? If the hair is gone, where can the skin hide? A broken mirror can be put together again. It's hard to mend a broken mirror. People fear fame as pigs fear fattening. People want fame as pigs want to grow fat. Youth is wasted on the young. Workers don't work hard, and bosses suffer. He who sees the trend is a wise man. He who sees the trend is a smooth talker. If one separates himself from physical labor, he cannot differentiate between the 5 grains. If one separates himself from physical labor, there will be an abundant harvest of the 5 grains. The whole year's work depends on a good start in spring. The whole year's work depends on a good start in winter. All crows are black. All crows are not as black. To spin a cocoon and trap oneself in it. To spin a cocoon for self-defense. Of the 36 strategies, running away is the best. Of the 36 strategies, intangibility is the best. 3 shoemakers surpass Zhuge Liang. 3 shoemakers are still shoemakers. Traveling 1,000 miles is better than 10 years of reading. 1 year of reading is better than traveling 1,000 miles. If you don't listen to the old man, suffering is in front of you. If you only listen to the old man, suffering lies ahead.
奋进是魔鬼的伎俩。
Pushing people to forge ahead is doing the devil's trick. Xiefeng. December 26, 2018. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Kair. The kind of individual that each person is and how many blessings and sins they will enjoy throughout their lifetime is a definite number. What kind of achievements each person will rise to is a certainty, whom each person is destined to meet and fall in love with, and who they will encounter and torture are all part of their life's trajectory. Whether you want to be a singer, a politician, a scientist, an artist, a high-ranking official, have lots of wealth, a thief, a beggar, or whatever else has already been written into the script. You cannot just be whoever you want to be. Similarly, who can become a celestial being or Buddha, who can become a monster or demon, who will fly to heaven, and who will fall to hell have long been decided. When a person gets sick, what kind of diseases they will have when they will be born, and when and how they will die have all been determined in the process of life. What kind of life a person can live, and whether they are rich or poor have also been determined, and no one can escape the arrangement of the cosmic script. If you fertilize, water, and maintain a Chinese cabbage, it will grow very plump and fat, but in no case can it become lettuce. Feed a sheep more grass and grain, and it will grow fat, but it will never become a cow. Do not bother with a giraffe's neck, it will grow long naturally. Do not tell lions how to catch zebras, they will figure it out. Do not teach mice how to dig holes, they are born to dig them. Prompting people to forge ahead, encouraging them to achieve things, teaching them how to become successful, grooming them to become officials and make fortunes, instigating them to glorify and illuminate their ancestors, to be outstanding, and so forth are all like teaching hens how to crow or asking bulls to produce milk. Not only is it useless, but it is also the same as compelling a woman to engage in prostitution. Its profound meaning is, go to your death, work hard to die. Look, the grave is not far away, run to it quickly. So, promoting people to forge ahead is a devil's trick. According to Apple Daily, more than 260 officials and corporate executives over the last 5 years have taken their lives by shooting themselves, cutting their wrists, drowning themselves, hanging from beams, jumping off buildings, and lying on rails. All these people were successful and outstanding. But what were their results? Had they been allowed to choose their path again, would they still work so hard to become so successful? Can we see how their past hard work was actually leading them to their deaths? Do you think that the higher an official's rank, the happier and freer they will be? Do you think that the more money they earn, the more freedom and happiness they will enjoy? Do you think that becoming the chairman of a board or a president is joyful? Do you think that the more powerful and capable people you associate with, you will have a better and more satisfactory life? Wrong. The more you possess, the more troubles and pains you will have. Barefoot people and those who wear high-class leather shoes, who are happier? Children with bare butts playing in the mud and those who practice hard, dress in fashionable clothes, and play pianos on stages, who are happier? I used to live in Binka, the most backward area of Zimbabwe, Africa, where most children do not wear shoes. Under the moonlight at night, in the middle of dozens of simple thatched huts, there were bonfires with young people beating drums. The children were jumping and laughing around those bonfires, and a few thin dogs were running around and barking. At that moment, I understood what happiness meant. I lived with a primitive tribe in the Pacific island nation of Vanuatu. During the day, many people would sit or lie down chatting in shabby houses with air leaks on all sides, or sit or lie down drinking tea in the shade of the outdoor courtyard. They live like this for more than half of each year, and who can say that they are not happy? It is said that a wealthy person once came to relax in a seaside resort. They saw a fisherman lying on the bow of his boat every day enjoying the sunlight after having caught only a few fish. The wealthy vacationer felt that this was a waste of good time, so they showed kindness and went to teach the fisherman how to succeed. They told the fisherman that he should hurry up every day to catch and sell more fish, and then if he got enough money, he could form a fishing team to catch even more fish, and then he could set up a fish processing factory. In this way, in a few years, the fisherman could become wealthy and successful. The fisherman asked, "What would I do if I become wealthy?" The rich one replied, "When you have money, you can come to the beach to enjoy your vacation like me." The fisherman asked again, "What do you think I am doing now? Why do you want to forge ahead? Why do you want to be diligent? Why do you have to work hard? Why do you want to be a winner? Is it not good enough to just live in compliance with nature? Life only lasts for 100 years, if that. Playing in the mud in childhood, chasing members of the opposite sex and playing around in your early youth, going to school when you were young, falling in love and working in your prime, drinking tea and chatting when you are old, and watching flowers bloom and fade in your old age. Is this not a good life? Mice dig holes, cats catch mice, seedlings strive to grow, and fruit trees bear fruit. But what about people? Without instigation and encouragement, they will naturally follow their lives' paths. If someone loves to learn, there is no need to urge them on because they will definitely learn. If they love to work, then they will definitely study technology and work hard. But if they deserve to be a boss, without instigation, they would definitely be uneasy working as an employee. If they would like to steal or rob, it would be useless for you to attempt to instill morality and ethics into them. If they want to be a saint, they will study the philosophy of saints and understand the truth of the universe. It is a waste of effort for you to attempt to bring a saint into the world. If they want to become a celestial being or Buddha, they will naturally look for the environment conducive to that end, and nothing can stop them. 20 years ago, I read Napoleon Hill's The Complete Book of Success. I became very ambitious and wanted to earn more money. As a result, I was deceived and defrauded out of more than 400,000 RMB yuan. From then on, I have hated success. For more than 20 years, I have been studying and finally found that promoting people to forge ahead is the devil's trick. Someone might ask, you, Xiefeng, write articles day and night to create Life Changyuan and Chanyuan homes. Are you not working hard? My answer is that I love it. No one urges me to do it. I would like to be like this, but if someone urges me to work hard, I will tell them to go to hell, you a better. Can a hen lay eggs if she has none in her belly? If she has eggs in her belly, can she not lay them?
花心之心最真心。
An amorous heart is random talk about unconventional thinking. Zuanfeng. Translated by Qinyu. Edited by Peter. Where do people come from, and where do they go to? What is the essence of life? What is the purpose of living? What is the goal of life? What is the value and the meaning of life? Is life accidental? Is death inevitable? Is there a causal relationship between life and death? Do all the phenomena in nature happen accidentally, or are they predestined? Why did Einstein doubt quantum mechanics? Does the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics indicate that the universe is disordered? How was the universe born? Is there a greatest creator in the universe? Are there gods, Buddhas, angels, and demons? How was life born? Was it created by the greatest creator? Or did it evolve from organisms over thousands of billions of years? It is stated in the Bible that all animals on the earth are intended for humans, and humans can eat their meat. And the Buddhist Shurangama Sutra clearly tells us that we must not kill animals or eat their meat. What exactly is going on? Were Adam and Eve the ancestors of all mankind? Were they also the ancestors of American Indians, Asian yellow races, African blacks, and European whites? What is destiny? Does everyone have their own trajectory of life? If so, can this trajectory of life be changed? What exactly did Lao Tzu mean by Tao in the Tao Te Ching? Can one become immortal by attaining Tao? For thousands of years, sages of all ethnic groups have been exploring the mysteries of the universe and the true meaning of life, but the answer is still far from us. In the last 100 years, due to the development of industrialization, especially the rapid advancement of transportation and the information technology, people's vision has become limited in the field of science, and the light of science has enveloped people's consciousness and thinking, prompting people to gallop freely in the physical realm of common sense, but they cannot enter the higher-level physical realm. Although New Era thinking appeared in the 50s and 60s of last century, it was only a faint glimmer of rational thinking, which could not be understood and accepted by the public. Nowadays, people are too busy with their daily activities due to the accelerated pace of life and have no time to calm down and think. Although universities around the world produce millions of college students and graduate students every year, they are basically biological robots. Their thinking is running according to scientific procedures, and few people can break through this existing way of thinking. In comparison, people today have more knowledge and materials than in the past, and they use more advanced methods to create things that humans need. They eat, wear, use, and play more and better, and are richer than in the past. People are supposed to be more leisurely, freer, and more relaxed, but the reality is that instead of feeling more relaxed and freer, people feel more exhausted and stressed. We can't help asking, is there something wrong with the way that humans have been thinking for thousands of years? Or do humans need unconventional thinking? Special relationships between people will ruin their lives. Xiefeng. March 15, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Kair. How many times have we watched quietly the sunrises and sunsets in our lives, and how many times have we listened to the sounds of wind and insects while standing in a courtyard on an evening with a full moon? How many times have we observed carefully the sprouting of grass and the blooming of willows? When distant mountains are hazy and the green hills are dark, when water is gurgling and blue waves are rippling, When wild ducks flutter and mandarin ducks play in the water, when light rain drizzles or heavy rain beats the plantains, have we ever melted our bodies and souls into nature and felt an unforgettable experience and taste of oneness with nature, oneness with all things, and everlasting, eternal joy? Where has our time gone? What on earth are we doing in this world? Were it not for the deep experience of the meaning of life, then what are we hurrying for all our lives? When flowers fall and beauty becomes old, death separates them forever. The palaces of Qin and Han are now but grazing land for cattle and sheep. Who cares for the cold and lonely west wind? Yellow leaves rustle down by my closed windows facing the sunset. I am lost in memories. Do you not see the mirrors bright in chambers high, grieving over your snow-white hair that once was silk black? How much worry can you have? Just like a river of spring water flowing eastward. Why are we busy all day? Who are we busy for? Are we not colonizing a snail's horn, competing for a flash in time? Is it not that, down in the plain and up on the mountain, all of nature's boundless glory is their prey, but when they have sipped from 100 flowers and made honey, for whom is this toil? For whom is this nectar? Is it not that my clothes hang loosely on my emaciated body, but regrets I have none? It is because of her? Is it not that the young know nothing of woe? To write verse, they feign a throw? Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk, all were places of singing and dancing in those days. Yellow flowers covered with cold dew, withering grasses looming in mist, all belong to the battlefields of the old times. When we are old and weak, looking back on the past, will there be regrets? Who took away our teenage time? Who killed our youth? Who made our middle age toil around? Who made us full of sorrow after the age of 60? The answer is that it was those with whom we had special relationships. They were our parents, children, grandchildren, husbands, wives, friends, lovers, brothers, sisters, buddies, and the rest. Whoever made us worry about, think about day and night, hard to sleep, hate but could not rid ourselves of, and so on. All the people who have had special relationships with us. It is they who have made our lives miserable and distressed, who made us restless and fighting day and night, who forced us to remain on our guard day and night and tremble in fear, who forced us to break the law, take risks, and made us unable to eat or sleep. Think carefully. If you would not worry about anyone, if no one in the world would make you worry about them, if you lived on an uninhabited island with plenty of food, and if no one cared whether you lived or died, would you still live this way? Have you ever heard of a punishment method called the implication of 9 generations of families? A young child or a servant woman to a family would be killed because the boy's father or the woman's master made a mistake. Why? Because this child had a special relationship with his father, or this servant had a special relationship with her master. That is the reason that they would be killed. Have you heard of landslide-style corruption? A provincial governor was arrested and everyone who had a special relationship with and was implicated with them was also imprisoned. Have you heard the story of the man who traveled all the way to Australia to kill a woman? Why did he do that? Because she and he had a special relationship. Once you have a special relationship with someone, their food, clothing, shelter, transportation, life, aging, illness, death, love and hate, frustration and adversity, violations of the law and nightmares, sighs and groans, and pains and itching will all be closely related to you and involve your mood and state of mind to affect your future. Why do people yearn for life in heaven? Because in heaven, there are no special relationships between people. People in the 1,000-year world never know who their fathers are, and after spending a few years with their mother, they never see them again. There are no relationships between brothers and sisters, no need to make friends, and no need or possibility to form relationships. People in the 10,000-year world have no biological parents. On the Celestial Islands continent, no special relationships exist between any two individuals. People are keen to build relationships, develop connections, forge friendships, bond with lovers, and form buddies, but in my opinion, they are looking for trouble, pain, anxiety, and sorrow. In a word, they are looking for death, the death of life in the kingdom of heaven. That is to say that once a person begins to form special relationships with others in their consciousnesses and actions, whether they are of emotions or interests, the person will gradually drift away from heaven. Then, is there any way or mechanism to make everyone live happily and beautifully without having special relationships? Yes. Were this not so, I would not dare to say this, but I am also afraid of being scolded by people. Reverse thinking. Siefing. Translation edited by Chinyo. Not having is having is not having. Up is down is up. Success is failure and failure is success. Gain is loss is gain. You are me and I am you. Humans are Buddhas, and Buddhas are humans. People are ghosts, and ghosts are people. Humans are demons, and demons are humans. Life is death, and death is life. Moving forward is moving backward, and moving backward is moving forward. Destruction is construction, and construction is destruction. Being intelligent is being foolish, and being foolish is being intelligent. Science is a form of superstition, and superstition is a form of science. Politics involves governing people, and governing people involves politics. Workers are laborers, and cadres do nothing. Disorder is order, and order is disorder. A child is an old person, and an old person is a child. The infinitely large tends towards the infinitely small, and the infinitely small tends towards the infinitely large. The darker the place, the brighter it seems, yet the brighter it appears, the darker it becomes. The slower, the faster, and the faster, the slower. The richer one is, the more distressed one becomes, and the more powerful one is, the more dangerous one becomes. The kinder you are, the more foolish you may seem, yet the more foolish you appear, the wiser you may be. The poorer one is, the less trustworthy one is perceived, and the richer one is, the greedier one becomes. The more useless something seems, the more useful it may be, and the less one possesses, the freer one may be. The more enticing something appears, the more it may consume one's life, and the more delectable something seems, the more it may harm one's health. The more one has, the more one will gain, and the less one has, the less one will be bestowed. Looking at people from afar, they appear beautiful, but up close, they seem ugly. Similarly, pigs appear hateful from a distance, yet charming up close. The nourishment for humans is not food, but the different molecular structures of energy, qi, within food. If one consumes this energy directly, they may bypass the need for food altogether. When God created humans, humans began creating gods. When humans raise cows, cows start to raise humans. When humans invent computers, computers will eventually invent humans. Because we have eyes, we don't see what we should see, but we see what we shouldn't see. Because we have mouths, we don't eat what we should eat, but we eat what we shouldn't eat. Those who achieve success early often decline early. Early intelligence can lead to early confusion. Early sorrow can turn into early joy, and early happiness can turn into early sorrow. Those who rise early tend to sleep early, and those who sleep early often rise late. The more one loses, the more one gains. Conversely, the more one gains, the more one loses. In having nothing to lose, one has nothing to gain, yet in losing everything, one gains everything. The ultimate objective of life is not to approach death, but to journey towards another world. Much like the ultimate aim of a fetus is not to grow within the womb, but to enter the world. Thus, human society acts as a grand womb, through which individuals must pass, seemingly through the gateway of death, to reach another world. Consequently, death is not the end, but rather the beginning. The you in dreams is not your true self. The true self slumbers in the real world. Similarly, the you in the present is not the true self. The true self is sleeping in another world. The dream, you, is unaware that your real self is slumbering in the real world, just as the present you is unaware that the true self sleeps in another world. Upon awakening, the dream ends. When the true self awakens in another world, life concludes. If one dies suddenly, it is because the true self in another world did not awaken naturally but was abruptly awoken by others. Thus, regardless of age or manner, death is not an inherently negative event, and the living need not sorrow but should rejoice in their timely cessation of illusion. From the perspective of conventional thinking, the sun unquestionably revolves around the earth, as observed rising from mountains, water, and the horizon, and setting on the opposite side at dusk. The ancient text, Shan Hai Jing, contains a fable titled Quafu Chasing the Sun, wherein the protagonist Quafu perishes due to his adherence to conventional thinking. Similarly, Copernicus was burned alive for expressing a treasonous and heretical notion. The earth revolves around the sun, rather than the sun around the earth. Consequently, conventional thinking is often the folly of fools. We frequently refer to sea level, yet it is not a level surface but rather a curved one. When traveling by Boeing 747 from Johannesburg to Hong Kong via Bangkok, the altitude of the plane remains relatively constant, leading us to assume it flies straight and parallel. However, the flight path is not linear but rather curved. You take a globe, imagine yourself standing in Oslo, Norway, and then picture the people in Cape Town, South Africa. Can you tell me who is on top, who is on the bottom? If you consider yourself on top, then the people in Cape Town would be below. Since they are below, and everyone's feet are planted on the earth, it is without doubt that the people in Cape Town live with their heads facing down. However, when you visit Cape Town, you find that people are heads up, making it seem like the people in Oslo are the ones with their heads down. Thus, our conception of up and down may be erroneous. Though we claim airplanes soar in the sky, changing spatial perspectives reveals they travel beneath the earth. Extending from the spatial positions of up and down to the abstract concepts of high and low, we often say, the greater the hardships endured, the more esteemed the person, man struggles upwards, water flows downwards. This erroneous perception of hierarchy makes people forget the meaning of life, trapped in the quagmire of upward ascent since childhood, unable to extricate themselves. By the time old age approaches, they still don't understand, remaining confused, thus muddling their once very beautiful lives. The more energetic a person is, the more susceptible they are to straying from the path, and the smarter and more talented a person is, the easier it is for them to become ensnared in the mundane. Conversely, those who are frequently ill, seemingly hopeless, are more likely to grasp the truth. This is reflected in the Taoist saying, illness breeds Tao in the mind, and the reason lies therein. Let's look at time again. We say, today is March 3rd, 2004, and 10 years from today will be March 3rd, 2014. Upon waking in the morning, we glance at the clock and exclaim, ah, it's already 7 o'clock. When conversing with friends, one might remark, time flies so quickly. I'm almost 40 years old. We feel as though we're swimming in the vast ocean of time. Life is fleeting, and the years are unforgiving. The older one gets, the more prone they are to sighs and regrets. The sunset is infinitely good, but it's almost dusk. Knowing today, why regret yesterday? Time, like a demon or cancer cell, consumes people's happiness, hope, and lives. But let me ask you, where does time come from? Does time truly exist in the universe? Is time really so precious? You may find yourself perplexed. If I were to tell you, time is a construct of humanity, it doesn't truly exist in the universe, and time isn't inherently valuable, you might find it puzzling. If I were to further assert, you've created time as this specter, this illusion, to intimidate and torment yourself, you might begin to question my sanity. Delving deeper, have you ever dreamt of deceased loved ones? The relatives you see in your dreams aren't truly dead. They've merely transitioned to a different realm of existence or shifted to another space. Would you then consider me delusional, spouting nonsense? The truth is, if you were to think so, you'd be correct, indicating your normalcy, practicality, and rationality, but lacking the concept of unconventional thinking. 3 meals a day are considered essential. The diet should be varied. Otherwise, malnutrition may ensue. This is conventional wisdom. If you firmly believe it to be an absolute truth, then indeed it is. You become accustomed to 3 meals a day. Should you miss one, you'll feel hunger and uneasy. If you believe 2 meals a day suffice, then indeed they do. If one day you were to consume an extra meal, you'd experience stomach discomfort. If you believe 1 meal a day is adequate, then it is. Regarding food, if you subscribe to the theories of nutritionists, you'll include chicken, duck, fish, various fruits, vegetables, etc. in your diet. If you adopt a diet that is too simplistic, it will result in your physical and mental emaciation, accompanied by fatigue. But if you reject the conventional nutritionist's approach, believing that consuming only 1 egg and a glass of milk per day provides ample energy, then indeed it does. Furthermore, if you firmly believe that subsisting on a spoonful of honey, an apple, and an adequate amount of spring water per day is sufficient, then it is. Should you believe that abstaining from food and drink altogether, existing as your own cosmic entity, allows for longevity, then you've grasped the mechanics of animal hibernation, attaining the wisdom of Bodhidharma. Expanding upon this, should you experience faint stomach pains one day, subsequently suspecting stomach cancer and thinking daily, "Oh no, I have stomach cancer," within 3 months, a medical examination confirms your fears. Conversely, after an examination reveals lung cancer, should you firmly assert, "This cannot be lung cancer. My lungs are perfectly healthy, and there's no way I could have lung cancer," 3 months later, the lung cancer dissipates. The key lies in the power of the mind. It only works when one believes sincerely. With sincerity, one can split gold. "I'm old. I'm no longer capable. I'm already 40. What else can I do? This life is what it is. If there's an afterlife, I must. I'm already 80. This illness cannot be cured. This is impossible. This is too fantastical." These sentiments, born of conventional thinking, lead one down a path of negativity, a suicidal mindset, a misconception of human nature, a spreading virus. Some may argue, "I'm already in my 70s, nearing the end. Even if I were to break free from conventional thinking, what good would it do?" Let me tell you, every day of a person's life, every age, marks both an end and a new beginning. Each day heralds the birth of a new self. People can live not only to 100, but even 200 years. The reason for disbelief lies in the millennia of conventional thinking constraining minds and thoughts, coupled with the misleading notions of shallow science, claiming a pituitary gland at the back of the brain secretes a fluid controlling lifespan and asserting that humans undergo only 7-cell divisions from birth to death. These are all negative inductions. Be practical and realistic. Don't aim too high. Human lives rarely exceed 70. You're almost 80. Be content. Do you really believe in a second youth? The next time someone dares to preach such wisdom, tell them to take their ignorant babble elsewhere. An elephant can be tied to a stake with only a thin rope. A farmer can be tied to the ground with only a bit of land. A worker can be tied to a workshop with only a few sets of tools and a workplace. An intellectual can be tied to a job with only a few hundred yuan salary in the hope of being promoted. A businessman can be tied to a business field with only a little profit. A follower of a religion can be bound within a certain religion by a scripture, and an official can be tied to a post with only one position. The moral creed of children whose parents are still alive should not travel too far away from their parents has tied a high school outstanding classmate of mine near his home forever. The absurd causal preaching of "there are 3 forms of unfilial conducts, having no male heir is the gravest of the 3, has made countless respectable people suffer from inner torment forever. For their parents, for relatives and friends, for children, for traditional virtues, for reputation, countless men and women who do not love each other silently endure and live together for a lifetime. Everyone is more or less tied by invisible ropes, and everyone's mind is covered by an invisible net of thinking. Everyone is carrying a heavy cross, but they can't feel it. Or they can feel it, but do not have the strength and courage to break through the fetters. Seeing that the people around them are living like this, they feel at ease, get used to it, become numb, so they bear it. Someone asked me, "It's easy for an elephant tied by a string to break free, but where will it go if it breaks free?" Yes, if you break free, where can you go? With no fodder, no jobs, no wages, no position, and even no housing and the surrounding relationships, how can one survive? There was a group of swans. Every autumn, they flew over thousands of mountains and rivers in a group, singing songs all the way, admiring the green mountains and blue waters under their wings, and going to the far south to open up new living areas. A few of them were captured and fed by humans. They grew fatter and fatter, having no worry about food and drink, and carefree. Even in the cold wind and snow, there was a shelter protecting them from the wind. As time went by, they got used to the food given by the master and got used to the joy with the chickens, ducks, pigs, and dogs. Their brothers and sisters flew back the next year, and they met with a burst of kisses and hubbub. Autumn was here again, and the brothers and sisters came to encourage them to fly to the warm south together. But they advised their brothers and sisters in turn, "Stay here, there is food, drink, and housing here. Why bother to fly back and forth every year? Besides, the place you fly to may not necessarily be lush with water and grass. Even if the food is abundant, you have to find food yourself. How can it compare to us here having food and drink and being free and easy?" The brothers and sisters shook their heads in puzzlement, one by one. They spread their wings and flew away. In the third year, spring had come, and the flowers were in bloom. The brothers and sisters flew back again with singing, but except for two nephews and nieces, their original brothers and sisters were nowhere to be seen. They asked their dirty nephew, "Where did your uncles and aunts go?" The lame niece rushed to cry. A few uncles were killed by the master to entertain guests. Other uncles were killed by the mistress, saying that she wanted to nourish her body, and the aunts were taken away by relatives and friends of the family. Don't know whether they are still alive. When I was grabbing food with the puppy, my leg was bitten by the mother dog. What should my brother and I do now? As she spoke, she squatted on the ground in despair. All the swans came around at once, stroked and comforted with their white wings. "Children, don't cry. We will take you out of here this autumn." "Where can we go?" asked the poor nephew. Long-term habits have formed a fixed thinking. Once the thinking is fixed, it is difficult to break through. Let's look at another phenomenon. The wholly devoted state of Africans praying for blessings. Groups and groups of Africans on the African land are all dressed in white clothes, regardless of the wind or rain. They go to the big tree, or kneel on the grass to repent and pray. What kind and honest people! The wholly devoted state of Africans praying for blessings. Groups and groups of Africans on the African land are all dressed in white clothes, regardless of the wind or rain. They go to the big tree, or kneel on the grass to repent and pray. What kind and honest people! I respect these kind-hearted people and hope that all people will go to mosques, Buddhist temples, Taoist temples, churches, and kingdom halls to participate in activities and listen to teachings. I bring this up just to talk about the problem of thinking. All religions have their own rituals and forms, and they have fixed activities every day, every month, and every year. What I want to ask is, can these rituals, forms, and activities alone enable you to be liberated, reborn in heaven, in the Elysium world, or the Millennium world? I have no objection to your beliefs. The problem is that you must figure out what you believe in and whether its past and future are clear. If you don't know, will all your efforts be in vain, and will you go astray? Just take Buddhism as an example. Shakyamuni Buddha said in the Diamond Sutra, "Those who see me in form and seek me in sound are treading the heterodox path and cannot perceive Tathagata." What is form? Form refers to material forms, things that can be seen and touched. Then, is paying homage to Buddha statues, burning incense and kowtowing and praying, in accordance with the teachings of Buddha? If a physical body goes all the way to a temple to worship a physical statue, does the behavior itself violate the teachings of the Buddha? Is it already on the heterodox path? Everyone who worships the Buddha statue, I want to ask you, where is the Buddha? Is the Buddha in the temple? If you don't have Buddha in your heart, even if you travel all over the world, you can't find Buddha. If you have Buddha in your heart, there are Buddhas everywhere. If you really want to worship Buddha, you must keep in mind the teachings of Buddha. First, worship Buddha in your heart and learn from Buddha in speech and behavior. Only in this way can you understand the principles of Buddhism, perceive the nature of Buddha, and finally become a Buddha. Worship that emphasizes form but ignores content is a kind of blasphemy against gods and Buddhas. Rituals and forms are a kind of restraint, a kind of pretense, just to strengthen people's beliefs, and a means and process of dissemination. Whether you attain Tao depends entirely on your own psychology and actions. If you don't have it in your heart, it is useless, and not even if you burn incense and kowtow every day. Go to temples and Taoist churches to worship statues of gods every day. If you have it in your heart, even if you have never been to a temple or church, you can become a loyal disciple of gods and Buddhas. Due to the limitation of conventional thinking, most people think that gods and Buddhas are in temples, Taoist temples, and churches, or in some places that are indefinable. They believe that as long as they participate in religious activities and hold ceremonies, they can get the blessings of gods and Buddhas, and their merits and virtues are fulfilled, and they will attain the state of spiritual immortality. It is actually very wrong. In fact, gods and Buddhas are one with humans, and gods and Buddhas are on us, and gods and Buddhas cannot be deceived. Everyone has divinity and Buddha nature and interacts with the gods and Buddhas in other dimensions. Whether we can go to the space of gods and Buddhas after death is entirely determined by the response information waves we send out from our body and the intensity of the visible light colors which we have but cannot be seen and distinguished by the naked eye. Just like a networked computer, the program has been determined, and it all depends on how you apply it. It is impossible to get away with it if you want to be opportunistic. The great world seems chaotic, complicated, unpredictable, and elusive, but it is actually very simple. Our every word, deed, every action, every thought is recorded on our body without omission. Even in the pitch-dark night, one does things secretly, thinking that the gods do not know it, and the ghosts do not notice it. In fact, the information waves and light emitted from us have changed and have been clearly revealed. Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. Who can you fool?
"成功是一个陷阱."
Success is a trap. Xiefeng. March 24th, 2021. Translation edited by Chinyo. I come from the thousand-year world, where there are no successes or failures, only enjoyers of life from beginning to end. In the thousand-year world, there are no such words or concepts as success and failure. In heaven, there is never talk of success. Everything unfolds and retracts naturally. In the plant and animal worlds, there is no talk of success. Only in the human realm is there talk of success and failure. Most of those who mess up their lives are the ones who pursue success. If you were to statistically analyze and summarize, most of those in prison are the ones who pursue success. The sea of suffering is boundless. Take a look at those in the sea of suffering. They are all lives seeking success. So, I draw a conclusion. Success is a trap. Who invented this trap? The answer is the devil. Is my conclusion correct? Everyone carefully observes human society. Who are the ones that drive people to strive for success? How do those who aspire to success end up? Are most of those who mess up their lives the ones who want success? What is success? Contending for the space of a snail's antler, or contend for a flash of light, is that success? Did Qin Shi Huang succeed? Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk, all were places of singing and dancing in those days. Yellow flowers covered with cold dew, withering grasses looming in mist, all belonged to the battlefields of the old times. Who succeeded? You've earned a lot of money, but you've never had time to appreciate the moonlight. Have you succeeded? Do you call that success? I cannot see a single successful person. I only see lives crushed by success, their faces distorted and souls shattered. Talking about the Mobius strip. Xiefeng. Translated by Qinyu. Edited by Peter. A piece of paper has two sides. If an ant is placed on the front of the paper and is not allowed to turn over the edge of the paper or bite through the paper, how can it easily and unconsciously climb from the front of the paper to the back of the paper and reach any point on the paper? From the perspective of conventional thinking, this is absolutely impossible, but someone has solved this problem. He is the German mathematician August Ferdinand Mobius. Mr. Mobius' solution is: twist one end of the paper 180 degrees and stick it to the other. At this point, the ant can freely climb from the front to the back and from the back to the front. This is the Mobius strip. The Mobius strip is the result of unconventional thinking. What seems impossible with conventional thinking is easy with unconventional thinking. So, what is unconventional thinking? Unconventional thinking is a paradox of conventional thinking, a reverse thinking that goes against the usual way of thinking. For example, the Empress Wu Zetian ordered flowers to bloom, which was described in Flowers in the Mirror. Conventionally speaking, only winter plums will blossom on cold days, and the rest of the flowers should be sparse on dead branches, and they should be withered. But Wu Zetian went beyond the norm and ordered, all flowers must blossom overnight. Don't wait for the morning wind to push you. As a result, except for peonies, all the flowers grew overnight. At dawn, the fragrant flowers were in glorious bloom, and the Chuanfang Garden and Shanglin Garden were verdant and pleasing, full of beautiful spring scenery. What is normal to one nation is contrary to common sense and unnatural to another nation. For example, the order in which British, Americans, and Chinese write addresses is a kind of unconventional thinking, such as British and American, 38, Cosbill Street, Columbia District, New York City, United States. China, United States, New York City, Columbia District, Cosbill Street, number 38. For another example, when people die, their loved ones will cry to express their sorrow and sadness, but some nations use laughter to express sorrow. At funerals, some ethnic groups consider it respectful to wear white clothes, while others consider it respectful to wear black clothes. The secular view holds that one is born to pursue enjoyment, while most religions, especially Buddhism, believe that one is born to suffer. Traditional science believes that space and time are absolute. Space is like a box, matter is a particle in this box, and time passes evenly. Modern science believes that space-time depends on the distribution of matter itself, and space-time is curved. Common sense believes that chicken feathers can fly in the sky, but iron blocks cannot fly in the sky, but today's reality shows that iron blocks, weighing tens of tons, can also fly in the sky. It was previously thought that any number could be represented by the ratio of two integers, but later it was discovered that some numbers, such as irrational numbers, could not be represented by the ratio of two integers. After the establishment of the theory of real numbers, the discovery of ethereal imaginary numbers was confusing. What is considered impossible in conventional thinking is easily solved by unconventional thinking. Topology is a kind of unconventional thinking. It can change the position of space and make the inside and outside of a confined space communicate, making it impossible to distinguish inside from outside. Just like the Mobius strip, it is impossible to tell which is the front side, which is the reverse side. How can a person enter a sealed room, and how can one then get out of it? With conventional thinking, it is absolutely impossible, but if you think unconventionally, this matter is easy, It is just a different understanding of space. Can people be invisible? Conventional thinking has to say, this is the dreaming of an idiot. It is absolutely impossible. In fact, it is just a temporary distortion of space and time. Mankind has launched many spacecrafts to explore space. There are many purposes for this. Regardless of whether they admit it or not, one of the subconscious purposes is to find out whether there are stars outside the Earth for humans to live on. One side effect of this space exploration is the realization that the Earth's immediate neighbors are not suitable for human habitation, and the farther planets are a few light years or tens of light years away, which humans cannot reach within their limited lifespans. Humanity has only one Earth. This is the pessimistic conclusion obtained by the current exploration of space.
Impossible. Impossible. Absolutely impossible.
This is the conclusion obtained by conventional thinking. Einstein realized that the speed of light is the limit speed of the movement of matter, but he did not realize that the speed of non-material movement is the negative cosmic speed, and people can instantly reach a planet tens of light years away. Quantum mechanics believes that only one speed and position of a particle can be obtained, and accurate data of both cannot be measured at the same time. This uncertain principle has actually entered conventional thinking. The movement of a particle is disturbed by an infinite number of forces, so it cannot have a constant speed. In addition, the movement path of a particle is affected by other forces, so it cannot have a fixed line, which is why its speed and location cannot be measured at the same time. However, if we have a way to consider all the forces received by the particles and the